Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of An Author's Kiss right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Renaii West. Death by Chaos. That sounds rather intriguing, doesn't it? It's a new novel, a mystery that she's written that explores not just secrets, but covers up and murder, but it also examines an era and place where women who were beautiful and intelligent thought they had to be perfect in order to succeed. Kind of sounds like today. These diverse women who may not have been friends in college if they weren't fresh together as roommates had to comfort each other in midlife crisis moment in order to confront the past and move forward to the present. Readers are likely to recognize pieces of themselves in this story. The novel is about Tasha, Elizabeth, Dawn, and Miranda, where the undisputed goddess of the Southern California Liberal Arts College in the 1970s, with distinct talents, beauty, and accomplishment, each goddess appeared disdained to be forever traveling on that path called the charmed life. But in a tragic twist of fate, a student is found murdered on campus and just before graduation. Suspicion falls in the mist and one of them goes missing. Destinies are changed forever. Ooh. I love it. I love a good mystery. I love a good whodunit. I love things that unravel as they go. Welcome to the show, love.
Well, thank you. You did that so well. You're fun. You're a lot of fun.
Life is about fun, especially amongst murder and chaos,
Yes.
right? You know, and
I will definitely.
You've written this kind of based in the 70s, which was my era, and peace and love and far out and all of that. But murder doesn't escape us at any time, and trying to be perfect and fit into the perfect image is in 2021, it's still something we are battling because it's somebody else's perception of what perfect should be and not just feeling beautifully imperfectly perfect within ourselves. So there lies a trap right there and then, right?
Yeah.
So the conflicts of just being a beautiful woman. Death by chaos. Well, life is also by chaos as well, which can lead to the death by chaos. But what was with the title? Why did you bring up that title?
Well, the idea was I took a drama class in college. And I remember I loved this professor, one of the best I had. He always said, look at the title of the play. There's some hidden meaning. There's some reason that should be a motivation. And I was just thinking, what is this all about? I came up through, like every writer, a ton of titles. And then I realized it was a chaotic person in a chaotic situation that created this death. I mean, this death could have been easily prevented had decisions been made in different directions. I don't want to give any spoiler alert, but there wasn't a lot of premeditation to do harm. It was just, everybody made decisions that led to this very chaotic moment, and then it was chaos afterwards. So the word chaos is for me a very important, very significant word in the whole story, and it basically sums it up. There was a death because of a lot of chaos, a lot of chaotic thinking and decisions.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're always seeking balance out of chaos, right?
Oh, yes.
Order out of chaos. But chaos is a way of shaking things up in order to get to reveal. So,
Yes.
every murder is kind of chaotic because you're trying to reveal why was the murder there, who did the murder. So you're trying to find the order in it. But throwing people into a chaotic state of mind, right, is, I mean, that's where the truth of a person really comes out, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And my main character, as you may have mentioned, who knows quite a bit about that night, but keeps a secret for many reasons. One as a favor to another, and one for her own selfish reason.
Mm-hmm.
She's a lovely person, but she's basically a very selfish person.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a lot to lose if she reveals too much. But at some point, she realizes it needs to come out.
Yeah.
And in doing so, over a 20-year period, through all this chaos, she goes on a search. I like to say she's looking for all the pieces of the puzzles.
Mm-hmm.
She has a lot of the pieces. She knows where some of them are, but she knows there are missing pieces. And she also knows that there are people who do not want this
Mm-hmm.
solved, who do not want the pieces found. They have their own selfish reasons. And so, but in the end, a lot of, and I won't say good things, but a lot of important things come out, things that should come out.
Mm-hmm. The truth
Yeah.
will always come out, right?
Yes.
You can only suppress it for so long, and then
Yeah.
it has to come to the surface. Um, why the 70s? I mean, it's a groovy time, but
Well, one, it was my era,
it was a
and
good era.
it was a fun era.
Yes.
And I embraced what I call this, well, not what but history calls the second wave of feminism, which
Mm,
was led by such icon as Gloria Steinem and Betty Friedan and many others. And it was an exciting time to be a young woman. We were being told,
mhm.
hey, there's a lot of opportunities. There's a lot of new ways to think. There's a lot of things you can do. Plus, with Woodstock and everything
Mm,
else, we had the Summer of Love. The pill was now available.
mm.
So there was a new freedom with our body and sexuality. Yet at the same time, we had all been raised by what I like to call the June cleavers of the Leave It to Beaver era,
Yes.
which meant I know I was constantly in conflict, as were many of my friends. Wow, look at this new opportunity. Oh, but good girls don't do that.
Mm,
And oh, but that's old fashioned. Oh, but good girls don't do that. And there was definitely, I would say, a lot of internal debates going on. But I'm proud to say, I think we navigated new territory for a lot of young women.
mm.
I find many of them don't have, I know there's still issues and we still have a ways to go, but I really think we opened a lot of doors for women, for future generations during that era.
Yes.
We were the soldiers.
We were, and I lived a great deal of it in South Africa at that time, and
Yeah.
a very misogynistic country at that time, and in work, in play, in everything, and it was a challenge to be seen and to be heard and to be treated as
Yeah.
equal. You know, uh, we had to fight for that,
Yeah.
but
And
mhm,
and you mentioned being perfect.
yeah,
I think it wasn't enough for a woman, let's say, to become a lawyer or to
mhm,
go into politicians or to do a pilot, something that had been traditionally male.
mhm,
She had to be so much better
yeah,
than her male counterparts for her to be taken seriously or to society to view, yes, women can do this. And so I think, and not only did she have to be perfect in her job, she had to be the perfect mother to show the world that women could be working mothers.
yes,
So I think, especially one of my characters, the idea of having to be perfect wasn't just for herself, but she felt she needed to do it for all the other women and future generations. That's a lot of pressure.
yeah, but it's also perfection is,
Yeah.
what it is to one person is something totally different to another. You are never, ever going to live up to everybody's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And it's such a false illusion because, here you think you've got it down, and then somebody says, no, you
Yeah.
ain't perfect. And it's that internal conflict all the time. So, trying to break the mold and push out and stand up and be seen at the same time with that inner conflict going on. Well, I'm just trying to please everybody.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand why there would be chaos in this book because it
Yes.
is that era where the push and pull. I want liberation. I want my voice out there. I want to stand up at the same time at the back and think, but you don't do that. You weren't brought up that way, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And who do you think you are? Men rule, you know?
Yeah.
So the there is already kind of some chaos already going in on that era, wasn't there?
Definitely, definitely. And I hate to say this, but there was also for women, you still wanted romance.
Yes.
And many men at that time were still a little reluctant to date or be involved with a woman who was a feminist.
Yes.
And so there was, do I downplay my political thoughts because I really want to go out with this guy? As I said, it was fun. I would do it all over again. It was
Well,
fun, but
especially
it
with what we
definitely,
know now.
yes. I probably do some things differently.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So,
Yeah.
the 70s, obviously, time of not just thought liberation and liberation of women and jobs and everything else. You had the fashion liberation as well that was
Yeah.
going on. And some of the fashion was terrible when you look back at it. And I go, what were we thinking?
Oh, yeah.
I liked the hippie chic, but some of the stuff was just like so dowdy for a while. Uh, it was the time of kind of the Dallas input and the dynasty kind of input in the
Oh,
sense of
yeah.
lifestyle, right?
Oh,
Uh,
yes.
And
I
so,
love both those
yeah,
shows.
I mean, that was kind of kind of painting, because I remember in South Africa when I think it was Dallas or Dynasty, one or the other, they actually had to put on movies and plays later at night because everybody was glued to their TV watching this,
Oh,
because we only had two channels, one Afrikaans, one English, and they alternated days. And
mm.
so people were hungry for it, and they were just in awe of these rich people with their
Oh.
lifestyle and everything else. And
You
that's
know,
what we saw. So that's what we thought we had to do. That's what we thought. Template.
nobody played the nighttime villainess like Joan Collins.
Oh God, yes.
She set the bar, and there have been
By
others
it.
who have done a good job, but in my opinion, she established that character and she still owns it.
Yes.
Alexa Carrington, oh my God.
I mean, the
Oh,
ultimate classic classy bitch.
oh, she was, yes, yeah,
Nobody has ever been able
yeah.
to do it with such class like she did.
Oh, oh. It's such about it,
Yeah,
yes.
and she was the cat with the long nails, but at the same
Oh,
time
yeah,
purring underneath it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and still had people falling all over her, doing everything she wanted. So because that
Oh,
was that was her allure, and those were the kind of villainous. But as you said, it was kind of the women's lib time too, where we weren't quite burning our bras. That was the 60s. We didn't even wear bras, I don't think, in the 70s. And, it was that time we're pushing forward, in our own liberation, but still trying to kind of be heard or be seen or be anything else was still difficult. So, in a case of keeping secrets, the repercussions of revealing those secrets and the domino effect,
hmm,
at the beginning is always, well, it's best that I keep the secret because of the domino effect. But then as the years go by and it eats away at you, and it's eaten away at your life and your choices and the way you live, then those secrets all of a sudden become your cancer, and
yes,
you have to reveal it.
it definitely. And I'm not against keeping secrets per se. I think sometimes how and when you
Yeah.
reveal is important. Um, but at the same time, when you are on top of some very knowledgeable, important information, it I think it is a cancer because at first you're keeping it a secret for maybe for your own selfish reason. And then later on you think maybe I should reveal it. But then you have the double whammy.
Hmm.
Boy, am I going to look like a jerk because
Yeah.
I didn't reveal it a year
Mm.
ago. I mean, I'm I'm a Dateline junkie. I don't know if you know that TV
Yep.
show, The Dateline Junkie. I can't believe how many times 2 years after this death, they get a phone call and somebody says, I want to talk with you. And of course, my first reaction is, well, why didn't they make that phone call 2 years ago?
Yep.
But they for whatever reason. And so I think, you have to come out,
Yes.
but you're starting to think of plans and lies to justify you're
Yes.
not coming out any sooner,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so now you have that double whammy of eating inside of you.
Yeah.
And yeah,
The guilt.
so
The guilt.
there's a lot of guilt,
Yeah.
definitely.
And it can eat away, right? It can
Yeah.
totally eat away because then it's the justification for what you did and the guilt for what you did. And then obviously, if there's been a murder and you knew something about it, then the parents' sorrow
Oh yeah.
of never, never knowing what's happened or anything else. And it's like, it's what sometimes can start off as a simple lie or a mistruth suddenly starts gaining weight and layers
Yes.
more and more weight. And then next thing you know, it's just blown out of proportion. And as you said, whichever way you come out with the truth, you're looking guilty for holding it back.
Oh, definitely. And all of a sudden, it's more about you than the situation,
Mm,
more about you than it should have been.
yeah, right in the
Yes,
beginning, right in the beginning.
definitely.
Why do you think that people do withhold information? I mean, sometimes it's, I don't want to be involved. I don't want repercussions. I don't want somebody coming after me because I was witnessing. Um, but sometimes it's just that they just don't think anybody will believe them. I mean,
All of the reasons. Usually, I think it's selfish reasons, and I'm not saying a person's a bad person,
mhm,
but it could be one. I don't want to get involved because if they start checking me out about this,
mm,
they're going to find out I smoke a lot of weed, which has
yeah,
nothing to do with this. But
right.
now I'm going to be on their radar for
Yeah,
smoking weed. Or um, the idea like I was someplace I shouldn't have
yeah.
been.
With someone I
Maybe,
shouldn't have been.
oh, yes, exactly. Um, okay, now how do I explain that to my spouse, my boyfriend, or something, or my children? So there are those reasons. Then there's, I think, the idea of not wanting to get involved, or maybe fear. I
Yeah.
know, there's a lot of times police say we can protect you, but
Mm,
personally, I would always, I'm not sure you really can if it was a person who was bad enough. And then sometimes I do think there is, and we're guilty about this. Oh, somebody else is going to take care of that.
right.
Oh,
Right.
I saw this, so did that person.
Yeah.
Surely somebody's
Somebody
going
else
to
will
call the
step up.
police.
Yeah.
Yeah, the police doesn't want to be overwhelmed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, but I have to admit, I personally, if I'm driving along more than once in my life, it's only happened twice, where I see a man and a woman having a physical altercation on the side of the road, I have called
Mm,
911 and said, on such and such by such and such, exit, there's this going on. I don't know what has happened afterwards,
right.
but I at least will do that.
At least it's
Now,
smarter than me because I would get in between them.
yeah.
I
Well,
just have
you're
to
good.
duck
No, yeah.
as they're going at each other.
I, you know, I mean, and then I think part of it too is, you know, um, sometimes if you do see an altercation and these people are bigger and maybe there's weapons
Yes.
involved, just how involved do you get?
Well, I
And
mean, in
so,
today's world
yeah,
too, what weapon do they have?
yes,
As guns seem to be, have more rights than life, it seems
yeah.
that everybody has a gun, and you never know when it's going to be bought out,
Oh my
right?
goodness, yes.
Yeah.
So, yes, definitely frightening.
So you need actually kind of anonymous hotline where somebody can say, I witnessed this, I saw this, but not
Hmm.
not give their information. And then that way, at least you get a break in the case.
Definitely. As I said, whenever I watch Dateline and somebody shows up, and it's one thing when somebody says, I didn't think about it then, or I was going through old pictures and I
Mm,
saw, that's one thing. But when somebody has held on to that
yeah.
information, I thought they could have at least reported it anonymously.
Yeah.
I don't want to be judgmental, but I guess I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, it's justice needs to prevail. And if you're
Yeah.
holding justice back. Now, why are your group of ladies called goddesses?
Well, a couple of reasons. One, that's a term me and my girlfriends use quite a bit with each other. It's a compliment of being an outstanding, um, just an
Woman.
outstanding, amazing woman.
Yes.
Second of all, I'm a lover of Greek mythology, one of my
Mm-hmm.
loves. And the one thing I have noticed about Greek mythology that's I don't want to say annoying to me, but a little. The goddesses always seem to be adversaries. They
Mm.
don't seem to get along. And I thought it would be kind of fun to create women who are sort of modern version of goddesses. But in this case, they become good friends. They become a
Sisterhood.
support system.
Mm-hmm.
They empower each other. They're there for each other. And they really are, they definitely become more powerful because they're there for each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so I definitely, and even though we talked about dynasty, even though we loved that, was it Crystal and
Yes,
Alexis
yes.
conflict? It was fun, but so often in older TV shows, you had the women not getting along. There was usually like a pretty one who didn't get along with the ugly one and stuff like that. So it's important to me to some extent in my stories that while there might be conflict, I really want to emphasize female friendship
Yeah.
and the power of it.
Yes.
And so,
Which, yeah.
yeah.
So it's
And
something we all
yeah.
really all live in right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
That sisterhood and supporting one another. It's not about comparison or competitiveness,
Yes.
right? It is about
Exactly.
collaboration, coming together, compassion for one another. That's really important. So I'm glad you've brought that sisterhood
Mm-hmm.
into the picture. We need that. We need people that you're talking, it's 20 years later and there's a reunion, but there's then the sharing of all the midlife crises and everybody that
Mm-hmm.
has gone through. I think once you've had that sisterhood, it's hard to lose it, isn't it? You kind of, at that time of crisis, you want to be there for one another. But,
Yes.
you know, um, I've never gone to a reunion because I went to school in a couple of different countries and they didn't have anything like that. But I know that some people just go completely bananas about that reunion, the way they look,
Oh,
making
yes.
sure that I'm successful, my marriage is wonderful, even though they're on the brink of divorce, you know, and they've gone and lost weight. Oh, yes, I always look like this, and sorry, something weird has come up.
Oh,
Okay. So a reunion. The illusion,
mm-hmm.
everybody wanting to look good. But is this the first time that they've kind of seen each other since then? And is this, kind of sparks a few memories?
No, but it is a significant one. The main characters do retain a friendship and a lot of interaction throughout the years, but even though they're into female empowerment and everything, they're still a little competitive, and especially one of them always likes showing up, being sensational at a reunion. They did have their 10-year reunion. Now they're coming to their 20-year reunion, and they're still wanting to look nice and they still want to look successful, but they are going through their midlife crisis. So they're each one of them's a little down on themselves. They're not sure they're bringing their best selves to the reunion, and they're trying to build each other up. Plus the idea of what happened their senior year is still weighing on them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then the fact that one of them is working to get everything out. So she has the reunion plus the idea of trying to find all the pieces of this puzzle and finally getting it out there. And so, but it is true about reunions. People do start going on diets. They start getting their hair color, everything else. It's almost like they want to go and you loved me then, you still love me now, or you didn't love me then, but look what you missed out on.
Yeah.
you
The
know,
impress, look how impressive I am. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Kind of the peacock syndrome, right? Yeah.
exactly. Yes.
um, You know that you don't need a reunion for that. If you've got people who have weddings and they turn up with look at me and try and outdo the bride and all of that. Not the
Oh,
time and place,
definitely.
folks. Not the time and
Yeah.
place. But
Which I always find, to me, that's one of the ultimate sins. You never upstage the bride, but that's just
exactly.
me.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I totally agree. I actually remember going to one wedding and one girl turned up. It was in the 70s. She was wearing hot pants and a tank top, and she looked like she'd just been sunbathing and turned up for the wedding, and then
Ugh.
kind of proceeded to be kind of all sexual over the groom. I
Yeah,
thought,
yeah, yeah.
no, darling, no.
Ugh. No.
But anyway, whatever that story was.
Oh, that's a
Um,
good one.
yeah. Um, back in the 70s too, when you watched shows and things like this, you know, um, misogyny was very, very high, and then women kind of the bitchiness, to
Hmm.
compete and all of that. The big shoulders, that was the 90s. Oh God, what were we thinking then? Um, but it was a lot about we went from the 70s, kind of the no makeup and the freedom and all of that, and then we went into the heavy makeup
And the
and
hair.
oh God, the hair, honestly.
Oh, the hairspray.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, the damage that we did to hair
Mm.
with that and the perms,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, so we went from kind of au natural to very synthetic. And when you look at that synthetic way of life, you've set this in the 70s, but the 20 years later, I'm assuming is the 90s.
Hmm.
And so the 90s kind of demanded something different of us, didn't it? We were looking at
Yes.
the powerhouse women coming out, the women making a difference, but they were still wearing the trouser suit, which I think if women empowerment, go in your divine, beautiful dress and show them you are a woman in power, not
Yes.
a woman dressing as a man to be in power, which we were still caught up in that state of being for a while. But coming into the 90s, we were also then looking at TV being really prevalent. We were looking at the shows of America's Most Wanted. We were looking at all of, crime shows and things like that. Do you think that played into your characters with those type of shows being up on the air and kind of maybe playing into the guilt a bit?
I think they definitely affected me. Now, you have to realize I'm not a violent person. I don't like horror films. Um, there's a lot of Quentin Tarantino and Martin Scorsese movies I cannot watch. They're
Mm-hmm.
too violent. But ironically, I do like these crime shows.
Mm,
And I had to do some self examination. And what I found I liked about it is they're like jigsaw puzzles to me.
yes,
I'm not
psychological.
that
Mm,
into the crime, I'm
yeah.
into a person putting the pieces together. And I love the stories of how somebody just happens to go, oh, nobody noticed that before. And that creates the wave to conclusion.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating. And what I also like about a lot of these shows is most of the time, now, like American Most Wanted, a lot of times they're still looking for that
Yeah.
person. Um, but I like the CSI
Mm,
shows, Criminal Minds.
yeah.
Usually by the end of the hour, it was resolved. We had a conclusion. We knew the answer. And I kind of like the beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sometimes I'm not, even though I watch them, I'm not big on a lot of these family dramas
Mm-hmm.
because it's like goes on and on. Okay, I feel
It's
bad.
so
Okay, you
much
had,
drama. Where's the joy?
where's the joy?
Yeah.
Okay, this person just had a miscarriage and
Yeah.
now she has cancer and
Yeah.
now they're going bankrupt. And it's
Yeah.
like, can they not get a break?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, this is reflecting my life too much.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I do kind of like the beginning, the middle, and there's a conclusion. And there is a part of me that the bad guy gets it. The bad guy gets the whatever.
Mhm.
And I kind of, even though Alexis and J.R. Ewing got away with a
Mhm.
lot, they really weren't murderers. They were just,
Yeah.
sleazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm
But,
I'm a Walking Dead fan and things like that.
oh,
And
yeah.
it's not because of the zombies. I just like the psychological approach of,
Yes.
faced with the dilemma to survive, at what cost will you? At
Oh,
what cost
yes.
will you survive? Will you lose your soul? Will you lose your integrity? Will
Mm.
you lose yourself along the way? Yeah, and it's where is that stand? Where is that border? And I love, the psychological aspect. That's why I like a really good whodunit. And of course, the British do wonderful murder mysteries,
Oh, uh,
which I love. I love
the
all of
British do
those.
it the best.
They
The
do. They
British
do.
do it the best.
Yeah, the Endeavour shows that have been on, and
Oh,
I
Endeavor?
just, yes, I love
I
Endeavour.
love that.
Oh, yes, better than actually the Morse, the later
Yeah.
ones. The Endeavour was even better. But it's when you kind of think, I've got it, that piece goes there.
Yeah.
A surprise comes up somewhere else altogether. And I just love that because it keeps you engaged. And
Hmm.
it's like a good book when you put it down or you've switched a show off. If it still sits with you, and you're still
Yeah.
thinking about it, then it really got you. It really has you engaged. And that's what I like. If I've forgotten what I watched last night, then it was just mindless TV in one end and out the other. But
Yeah.
if I've watched something that's really got me and that's been intriguing and where is it going to go now? I love that. So,
I definitely no. My local channel is PBS,
yeah,
KPBS, and definitely I do watch. There's quite a few that I do watch,
yeah,
and they definitely are fun, and the detectives are fun. They're
yes.
not superhuman,
Yep.
but
They've
they're
all got
delightful.
flaws. They've all got flaws,
Yeah,
right?
but they're still delightful.
Yes, yes. And you can't help but like them. And as you say, like the villain, like in The Walking Dead, Negan,
Mhm.
ultimate villain who now is kind of turned the other way, the other side, and you don't know, is he going to go back to the villainy? Is that done now? What made him go into the villain, which they did do an episode on that. And it's like, what makes a villain? What makes somebody a killer? Because you don't grow up and go, I'm going to be a killer one day, right? So, how did this death come about that caused all this chaos?
Yeah. I tell you this. I don't know if you've heard of Universal Studios.
Yes.
At Halloween, they will have some Halloween event. I'm giving a plug to Universal Studios here. And I don't know if they still do it because it's been a few years since I've been, but it was
Since
the
anyone's been.
Walking Dead theme.
Oh,
Now,
really?
the actors who walk around as zombies are not allowed to touch you,
Hmm.
but they can get close to you and they can scare you. And I must have this thing on me that says scare easily because I go with friends and they laugh. I will be surrounded by them. Nobody bothers my friends, but they said, Susan, you start, or Renee, you start, and I do. And
The
I'm like,
radar.
and I know they're actors
Mm,
dressed up, but
yes.
I am such a target for
Yeah, the
them.
cynicism, right? The cynicism,
Oh,
and
yeah.
we've seen
They
enough
do a good
movies.
job. You would
Yeah,
probably enjoy it.
I probably would, yeah. But that's the thing is that again, we've seen enough movies where they may look like just the actor, but they turn out to be the killer. You
Yeah.
know? So basically, I think we walk through life. Are you a killer? Are you a killer? Are you
Oh,
a killer? Right? And we've got to that state in many ways. And with so much violence on the rise at the present moment, you
oh.
never know where it's going to come out. Um, but there's been many a book and a show done on the reveal some years later. I love the cold case type
Oh.
shows, Unforgotten and a few others, of how they can peel back the layers, even decades, and find the thread that starts revealing what happened to this
Mm-hmm.
person, who is this person, and all those people think that they got away with it for so many years later, and here the thread is being pulled, and you just start to see it unravel.
Especially with new forensic ability.
Yes, yes,
Oh, I
yeah,
think I think people who must have committed a murder in like the 70s and didn't think about their DNA being left
right,
behind.
right.
A lot of them have got to be sweating bullets.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
fingerprints all very well, but yeah,
Yeah.
the hair and anything like that. Yeah, I mean but that's what's so intriguing. That's part of the unraveling, and
Mm.
as you said, the puzzle, coming together. So when you've got a really good whodunit, and
Mm.
the whodunit has always got to be, why did they do it? And why did they
Yes.
do it to that person? And why would they cover it up? So it's not just about the who, it's the whys in there, you
Oh,
know?
motivation
Yeah,
is very, I almost feel cheated if there really isn't
yeah,
revealed
yeah.
why. And it doesn't always have to be a good reason because people make stupid
Hmm.
decisions. But definitely the why is very, to me, is very important.
Yeah.
And
There has to be a reason why, otherwise it's mindless.
yes.
The Bone Collector was on TV again the other night, which is another great movie.
Hmm.
Denzel Washington and Angelina Jolie, one of her early ones. And, it's again that intrigue. You never really see the killer. You just see what he leaves behind and the cynicism of it. And one of Steven Spielberg's first movies, what was it called? I can't remember the name of it, but it basically it was just a truck chasing this one guy, Dennis Weaver, and he was a traveling salesman, and of course he
I've heard of it.
yes, it's you never see the driver, and
Hmm.
this truck driver is chasing him and running him off the road and everything, and basically it's just them throughout the whole movie. The tension is Hitchcock tension,
Hmm.
completely all the way. And I was in South Africa at that time, and I was driving a Triumph Spitfire, and I was stuck between two truck drivers I know had seen the movie, and they kept me there for nearly an hour between them and not letting me overtake them. It was so
Oh,
scary because you've got this hunk of metal with no face. Right.
yeah.
And here you are, this vulnerable thing they could squish or squash you anytime. This is good artistry, isn't it? When you don't know the villain, or you know the villain and you think it can never be them. In LA
Oh,
Confidential, the main guy there, he just done Babe, the Piglet movie.
oh,
And where he was a farmer, a beautiful, simple farmer, and now he's on LA Confidential and he ends up being the murderer.
oh,
You know,
that was a good
and
one.
it's like,
That,
oh, no, not him. He's
yeah.
the nice farmer.
But you know what I loved about that is I know Kevin Spacey's controversial now, but
Mm,
anyway, Kevin Spacey did do a good job.
yes.
And I note, spoiler alert, when Kevin Spacey gets shot and he knows he's done for,
Yeah.
but he manages to throw out a clue in
Yeah.
his dying moments. I just thought that was brilliant.
And I think if you are to
Yeah,
know you're dying,
yeah,
nowadays grab your cell phone, but
yeah,
you see people write things in blood or whatever,
yeah.
whatever way you can leave a clue, leave
Mm-hmm.
something for them to go on. Because, I mean, today we see so many random killings. They're just gang related or just people obliterating people for no reason, and there's no sense in it, which is just cruel. But
Oh,
when you see that there is, and this is of course the Sherlock Holmes, Benedict. Oh God, he's the best
oh,
Sherlock Holmes ever. Oh,
Cumberbatch. Yeah,
the
he's
best.
wonderful.
His villain, Moriarty, the best villain ever. He was just
Mm.
juicy, absolutely. But the way he deduced things by the way he's been able to see things, and when we look at a lot of people today and we see the gifts they have, very often they're on the autistic level, on that
Yes,
spectrum, because of that ability to see detail that we normally just glance over.
that is becoming more and
Hmm.
more prominent and more known. And I would say a big change between the 70s and now
Wow, yeah.
is a better understanding of things like autism. In all honesty, in fact, a friend and I were talking about this the other day. We had never heard the term Asperger's syndrome.
Hmm.
Maybe it was like 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And now we're finding these geniuses, these
Yes.
artists, these very successful people are coming out saying they've been diagnosed with it. And, you know, there's just, it's amazing in so many ways we're making such progress in understanding the
Mm.
human psyche. And in some ways, we're still having random murders and road rage. So,
Yeah. Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I had on
Oh,
last week actually a young lady who has autism. And I've interviewed both her and her mother, and I'm raising her. She has a degree in computer graphics, and she's just written her second book,
yeah.
right?
And,
But
when I was growing up, pretty much autism was viewed as well, very negatively.
Brain damage,
It,
basically.
it, it was.
Yeah,
And yet, again, we're seeing people becoming very successful.
yeah,
And that's amazing. That's wonderful.
yes.
Yeah.
It's the same as what has opened the door, which I know is off topic to the book, but what COVID has done most certainly is there's been more depression on the rise, and you're seeing more and more successful stars and princes
Hmm.
step forward and say, yes, I suffer from depression. I've gone
Hmm.
down the rabbit hole. I know what it's like. And, the more and more we open up the door to these conversations without the stigma on it, the less and less you're going to see people withhold secrets, right?
Yes.
Because there is more permission to be vulnerable and to speak without scrutiny, without blame,
Mhm.
without shame.
Or without losing your job, or
Yes.
without losing a
Yeah.
relationship, or
Yeah.
being ostracized.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
um, a huge thing that I'm seeing is so different because you and I, we remember the 80s when AIDS came out
Oh God. Yeah.
and the stigma. And
Yes.
now the the commercials that will say, I'm more than my HIV. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's wonderful, but
Mm,
I could have told you in 1985, if you had told me there'd be commercials like that,
yeah.
I would have said, nah.
Yeah.
I mean, but the idea of recognizing an illness, researching it, finding a way to manage it, and then not villainize the
Yes.
people who get it. I mean, we, in many ways, I tend to be a positive. I always look for the glass full person.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
It's always full of something, whether it's
yeah,
air, water, or whatever,
yeah.
whiskey.
But I mean, I find that amazing,
Mm,
and the success with that. And so definitely, if we can stop stigmatizing, if we can stop ostracizing, if we can stop making people feel bad because of things, and allow them to say, yeah, I have depression, yes, I have
mm,
HIV, yes, I have epilepsy, yes, I have autism, but I'm more than that. I am a person.
yeah.
Definitely.
It
Yeah.
it also goes to the subject of rape and abuse,
Yeah.
and how many people do not go to the police because they haven't had a good track record of A, believing, or B, protecting, or
Mm.
honoring that person's trauma, of the
Yeah.
victimization. Slowly changing now in a
You
way.
might you might be with me, like when all these actresses came out against,
Mm,
like Harvey and the others,
yeah.
and you would see comments on the internet, well, why didn't they go to the police? Well,
Mm,
I totally understand why they didn't.
yes. Yes.
That's not surprising to me that they didn't. And it's a shame they didn't, and it's definitely a shame why they didn't.
Yeah.
But I understand why. And I understand why they're coming out now, because they're not going to have tomatoes thrown at them now.
Right. Right.
They now can be heard and have that support system around them. And you need that.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah.
we're always 20 years later, and it doesn't matter when it is. You
Yeah.
never forget being victimized, ever. It always stays with you, even if you
Mm.
deal with it. It's always there. It is always going to affect your trust in another relationship. And the fact that we treat people so badly, it's almost like raping them again
Yes.
emotionally. And it's so many things have to stop. But you look at your case set in the 70s policing, it
Oh, yes.
was Clint Eastwood, make my day, which we loved all those shows, they
But
were all great, but Play Misty for me was a better one.
oh, that was
Yeah.
Jessica Walters,
Uh,
rest in peace. She was
yes.
fabulous in that.
Yes. And
But at least Clint Eastwood, now it's been years since I've seen it, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but at least Harry was somewhat moral. Like,
yeah.
he wanted to get the bad guy, but there were cases where it was a free for all for the
Yeah.
police department.
Yes.
There was, whatever benefits me.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it was corrupt.
Which is
Yeah.
still in the spotlight today. Yes, change is needed.
Yeah.
um, yeah, and that comes to another thing of why people don't come up and confess anything, because there's something about the uniform. They're
Hmm.
looking for a quick closing of a case, and you come up and say say something, instead of saying I saw something, it's now you are possibly the culprit, and
Oh
they'll
yeah.
pin something on you because they want to close the case. And so you can understand why people don't go to the police now and back then, because they don't feel A, they'll be heard, or B, they're going to be the easy way out.
Hmm.
There's that trust factor, and so a lot has to be done on that arena, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely,
Well, you're going to be
definitely.
writing this in another 20 years about the same thing because it hasn't been resolved.
No, unfortunately, unfortunately. So I know in a lot of these police shows that I found, it it's almost like if you found the body,
Mm.
it,
Yes.
you got to do the right thing and call it in, but now you're going to be a suspect, at least for part of the time.
Or if you try to help someone and you got blood on you. Oh, they have blood on them. They're guilty.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it definitely, but at the same time, I would still do it.
Yeah, exactly. But you do understand people who don't, because
Yeah.
the repercussions, especially if they're a person of color, they must have done
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
Right.
oh, definitely. Definitely.
So the
Yeah.
secret that comes out of, did they witness it? Did they know who did it? Or is this something you can't tell?
Well, let's just, I don't know if I want to give it all away, but um, one of the characters, as I said, there's four women. One becomes a person of interest and goes missing.
Mm,
And then another one knows a lot more. The other two, I will say this, are oblivious. They know there's the death. They know their friend and roommate is a person of interest and has gone missing. And so that's it. But the other one knows a lot more. She knows why. But then there's a lot of things she still doesn't know over the years.
right. Right.
So
And of
yeah.
course, if a friend goes missing, it's like, well, is that to do with that?
Yes.
Could I even come forward now, or am I laying myself open?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So,
And then what adds to the fun is as they're getting ready for the 20-year reunion, somebody comes into their life who makes hints that he knows things.
mm,
And it's like, okay, who is this person? How does he know? Why does he know? What does he want?
yes,
What kind of games
hackles are
he's
up.
playing?
Yeah.
What kind of games is he playing? Yeah. So it's it's definitely, but yeah, one of the characters definitely knows a lot more, and she doesn't quite understand everybody's reasoning for their behavior. And she's trying, to her credit, she is trying to do the right thing. She is holding on to the secrets as a favor, but also for her own selfish reasons too.
Hmm.
But
Right.
in the end, she does the right thing.
Truth will prevail,
Yes.
right? In the end, it
Yes.
has to come out, however long it takes.
Yes.
Um, I think when you kind of fall in love with the characters, good or bad,
Oh yeah.
then it's like you're rooting for them, and you want them to go and tell, but at the same time, but I don't want them to come back on her for it. And again, as I said, if you can close a book and you really feel those characters, or you relate to them, or you my mum was an actress, and there was
Oh, fun.
and I used to kind of play the other roles for her when she's learning her lines. But I was a little girl watching her in a play, and she had to choose between her husband and her lover, the poet. And apparently, I shouted from the bleachers, "Go with the poets!"
How romantic. Yes.
So but it is you want to fall in love with the characters, whether you like them or not. You
Hmm.
want to kind of be rooting for them whichever way, even if they're the bad guy and you want. The trouble is with a lot of these shows, they bring a bad guy and they shoot him immediately. There's no character building. There's no the reason why they've done what they've done. You like the shows where the villain comes up and you kind of know who they are. And you kind of, why is he like this? What's driven him to it? And as the things come on, they reveal more, because you want to be engaged with it. And your characters are these women who know too
Hmm.
much. Should they reveal it? One's gone missing. Now we're in the midst of
Yeah.
chaos, the conflict of emotion, the conflict of guilt,
Mm.
and the conflict of what should I do?
Yeah. No, I had a reader who commented on the main character, and she did like the book. I'll start off with that. But she said she had a little bit of conflict because she said overall she didn't like the lead character because the character is self-absorbed. She's very all about me, and she doesn't normally like people like that in real life. But she said what was fun was you normally don't get a person like that in a leading role. You
Right.
don't get a person like that
Yeah.
looking for the truth. And so she found that a lot of fun. So, but it's definitely, but I have to say, the other characters are definitely more likable. Um, Tasha, the lead one, was designed to be, well, she's an actress. She
Mm,
becomes an actress. She's very, she's very impressed with herself.
right.
She's vulnerable, but she's very impressed with herself. Um, and but at the same time she does have a good heart, but she also, I won't say she also follows her heart, but she also follows her emotions. As somebody says, she's the type that can look you in the eye, swear she's never even been with your boyfriend, and he's sneaking out the back
Yes,
window. I
exactly.
mean,
Yeah.
but she doesn't mean to hurt you,
You know,
but
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Um, yeah, if they kind of the villain that is she a villain or is she not a villain? You know,
yeah,
it's like, did she deserve this? But at the same time, she's the victim, you know,
yeah,
or is she the victim or is she the villain? You know,
yeah.
that's what you want through the book. You want something like each page to be revealing more and more and more. So you
Mm-hmm.
get immersed into the characters. And then when it all is revealed, it is like, ah, now I understand, you know, the
Yes.
why they did this and they did that, and why they are the way they are. And I think we're always looking, I know I am, I'm always looking at why people become what they are, who they are, the way they are. And if you peel back those onions, it's always something that's happened in the past that maybe they haven't dealt with, they haven't come face to face with, they haven't gone through the process with, or it's something that they've gone through that's molded them into who they are today. So I
Well,
love
I
those
think
kind of characters.
sometimes their childhood and their
Yeah.
community. I know in my book, the four women are randomly assigned as roommates, and I purposely had a class system. Two of them come from well to do families. This is a private university. The family can pay for them. And the two others are scholarship students. One was raised by a single mom. She's the product of a rape. And they all are wonderful women, but they bring a different
Yeah.
perception to life. And sometimes there's a little conflict of, well, the two girls who come from a nice home think nothing of going out and buying this, where the
Yeah.
other two really have to watch their budget, that maybe these two aren't sensitive to at the moment. And, so there is a little bit of how they pursue the life, or how one is more into, I think if you've always had a charmed life, you're not always aware that there's a need for more social justice.
Right.
It's not because you're a bad person, it's
It's
just
not in your world.
everybody got along, everybody
Yeah.
had everything they need. What's the problem? Whereas if you grew up and you knew people being denied, you knew of people in poverty, you knew about police brutality, you're going to view the world a little differently.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially if you were part of it, part of
Yes.
that brutality, that persecution. Yes. And I think that's kind of what we're asking people to do, you know, rich, poor, or whatever, take off the blinkers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, a color shouldn't matter. It should never come into play when it comes to a job or anything else in the world. But at the same time, if we respect each other's culture, and understand what molded that culture, we'll understand why that culture is the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we don't have a lot of patience with other people because we're always feeling they should be, well, if I could do it, you can, you
Oh,
know?
I have to admit, I have that guilt too. I mean, I tend to sometimes have to remind myself about that, but I can honestly, well, I did this,
Yeah.
and so I find this a lot. I think one way that is a trigger for me is I have some friends, I love them dearly, who can keep weight off, and sometimes
Mhm.
I find their unsympathetic attitude toward overweight people. And again, I know you're fine, but I mean, but and I try to point that out to them, and well, it's not that hard. Well,
Mm. You're not in their
science,
shoes. You're not in
yeah,
their body.
and
You're not in their
science
life. Yeah.
and science has coming out
Yeah.
that it's different for everybody.
Right.
It's not, there's a lot of, and so I do find that, and I'm sure there's ways where I think, well, I could do this, why can't everybody
Right.
else? and and so, and then I know I had a friend, we took dance classes, and she commented on another friend of ours who was a lovely person but never became a great dancer. And she kept saying, I don't get it, I don't get it. And I said, listen, she was only born with so much talent. Sure, she's working hard, she's never going to be great. Doesn't make her a bad person.
No,
But
and
she,
she could be dancing just for her own pleasure.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But my friend couldn't quite get why she couldn't be better.
Hmm.
And I thought, nagging at her isn't going to
Oh,
help,
yeah.
but yeah, you are able to get better. She's reached her peak, I can tell,
But it also maybe not
yeah,
her be all or her end all. You know,
yes, exactly,
it's
yeah,
it's her pleasure to dance, it's expression to dance, but
mm-hmm.
she knows she's not going to be the lead in anything. So again, it's like, what do we want out of life? And if you're
Yeah,
wanting to be front and center all the time, it's your ego that wants to be there.
mm,
And does your talent match your ego, right?
yes,
So my goodness, there's so much to talk about here. That I always say I do these shows because inspiration begets invitation.
oh god,
Because when we're inspired by somebody, we're invited to look at our own talents, our own skills. I say everybody is an instrument. We discover what it is, we learn to play it, and we bring it to the orchestra of life.
oh, I like that,
And we play a symphony that resonates out in invitation to others. But just because you play one instrument well doesn't mean you have to play all of the instruments well,
mm-hmm.
or that you're going to be the soloist in the orchestra. You might just be that triangle, but it's exceptionally important in the music.
It's important, yes,
So it's like, don't compare, because that comparison
mm-hmm.
is always demoralizing. It always pulls people down. Apples and oranges, they're both fruit. I
Yes,
may feel like an apple today and an orange tomorrow. Who cares? Right? And it's like this compare. No, it is about understanding why someone is doing it, and if they're doing it for their own pleasure, or this is their instrument and this is the level
mm-hmm.
they're meant to be playing at. They're a part of that orchestra. They're what make it a whole. And so if we
Yes,
could look at each other's ingredient in the dish, and it doesn't have to be a main lead. Some people are born, like your character is an actress. They're born to
yes,
be the leader, right? This is why you always have leadership, because we're all leaders in our own lives, but that we're not all born to be leaders of others.
oh, it wouldn't work
No,
if we definitely have all leaders, to be too much
chaos.
conflict, yeah, chaos,
Yeah.
yeah,
Too many
oh
cooks in the kitchen, right?
oh
Yeah.
definitely. I remember one time at a big family reunion, and we were at a park, and it was getting confusing and stuff, and this is typical of my dad. He stood up on a bench and just hollered out something about there's only one leader, and it was him. And he began to bark orders, and you know what, it finally worked, because there was like 20 of us, and it finally worked. Somebody just had to,
Yeah.
yeah,
They had to, well, that's
oh,
taking leadership over a situation,
yes,
right? And I'm gonna, my ex used to call me a director.
oh yes, I know,
Because but I said, but you don't take the initiative, and somebody has to.
Oh,
Otherwise, we're just going to be stagnant. And so, some people get imposed with the leadership role, whether they want it or not, and some people are just born leaders. It's just the way it is. But having a villain that's a leader, or a character that is the main character that is unraveling everything,
mhm.
we want to be immersed in the characters. We want to root for them, or we want to, it's them, the villain. I don't know if you ever, in England, we used to have these pantomimes, and you knew who the villain was, and they'd be hiding, and
Oh.
the kids would shout, over there, know? And it's kind of in the book, as you, oh, it's them, definitely them. And then, as it goes on, you go, oh, okay, I guess I was wrong there. And you want that because you want the intriguement. You want something that keeps you engaged. You want those characters to really live with you. And then afterwards, you want to be able to say to someone, you've got to read this book,
Yes.
which is the important thing, the biggest compliment. My brother is an author. He's been writing
Ah,
virtually all his life. The one thing he absolutely hates is all the social media and all that stuff that he has to do. But yeah, and that's part and parcel of it, of being an author today, isn't it? It isn't just handing it
yes.
to the publisher, signing in a couple of bookstores. There's all the other stuff. So for people who kind of think, I've got a book in me, I've got a novel in me, what advice would you give them that they need for, the beginning, the middle, and the end, and the after?
Well, first of all, and I hate to borrow from a Nike ad, but just do it.
Yes.
Sit down. First of all, you got to get it out and just make the time, whether it's pencil on one of those, yellow pads.
Mhm.
I'm a computer person
Me too.
myself.
Me too.
Just get it out there. And then something I did, and I highly recommend it. I went ahead and put out the money, and I had some people read it.
Mm.
It's very easy to get editors out there.
Yeah.
And I am so glad, because they found flaws, not
Mhm.
just misspelling and poor grammar. They found little mistakes, because when you're writing over a period of time,
Yeah.
you might forget this. I use the example, and I do not know how I missed this, but I had a character age 8 years in a 10-year period, because they were at this age, this chapter, and then
Yeah.
many chapters later, when it was supposed to be 10 years later, they were only 8 years older. And I don't know how I missed that, but I am so glad somebody found that.
Yeah. Yeah. You need
And
the objective, don't you? Yeah.
it definitely, and these were total strangers, so they weren't cousins,
Mm.
friends, lovers, anybody that wanted to be nice. They were. And so I would say, do that. And then, I'm a self-published person. You can go the traditional way. I have found, I did a lot of research. I belong to message boards, and I have found self-publishing doesn't have the stigma that it used to
No,
have.
no.
And I found it's quicker.
Oh God, yes, is it?
It's a lot quicker.
Yeah.
And so definitely, and then thank God there are so many wonderful people out there. And then once I got it published, okay, now it's on Amazon. What do? There are people who will help you, who will talk to you about marketing, because I was not a marketing expert. And some of the advice I got was spectacular. Or some of the people said, this is who you should contact. This is how to get it out there. And so I would say, first get it done, get it reviewed before you publish it. Get it, and I say by more than one person.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I said, I went ahead and had 3. And the first time somebody made a comment, I thought, that's their problem. The second time somebody made the same comment,
Yeah.
And by the third time, I went, I need to address this. I need to change this. It's obviously a problem in the story.
Right.
And I feel that my book is better because of their
Yes.
comments. So I would say, just do it, get it reviewed by people, somebody that can be objective, and then find out, get it published, and then find people to help you with marketing. There's so much good advice out there. There are people who will review your book, good or bad. And I've been lucky, I've had good reviews, but I have been told even bad reviews are not a bad thing.
Right.
That sounds weird. And it makes sense because I have loved movies that have gotten bad reviews.
Yes, because it's
Yeah.
somebody else's perspective. It doesn't
Yeah.
mean it's everybody's. Um, but the other thing, get yourself a good publicist that's really
Mhm.
knows how to work authors and be willing to do the podcasts because there's,
Exactly. I've
and
been doing interviews and I wouldn't have not known how to do this.
mhm,
I, and so it's fun. And it also, I had a good, I knew I had a good story, but my publicist asked me some hard questions and I really had to think, and that helped me. Like, who's my audience?
yes,
What do I want them to get out of that? And I thought, okay, I really have to think about that. And so not only did it help me with my book, but I'm writing a second one now, and I'm much more focused
yeah,
on what I'm doing now. And
yeah,
so I definitely, I think if I've had hit and miss with writing classes, I
hmm
think they can be good. The last one I took, I I didn't feel I got a lot out of, but I think they can be good. But I've
you got to
hit
find the
hit and
right one.
miss.
You have to
Yeah,
find the right one. Yeah.
and I'm trying to also in San Diego get together, like have monthly meetings with other writers, like
hmm
small ones, where we can just bounce ideas off and share ideas. Because not only are we bouncing ideas off, but I get inspired and I go,
Yes.
it's just like working out or something.
Yes.
There's days you feel like it and there's days you don't. And so,
Mm.
I think creativity begets creativity.
Oh, it does. It does.
Yeah.
You want to know your why of your story, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even kind of somewhat of an ending of the way it's going to be. But some people write where the characters come alive as they write them and kind of
Mm-hmm.
almost write themselves. And some people know exactly who their characters are and can, really bring them and unravel. But I think I know for me, it would be in the allowing, like whenever I write an article or blog, I may start off with a thought, the fingers are on the typewriter and blah, 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 and then it's spilled out. Then you can go and correct it, you can go and organize it,
Mm-hmm.
um, but it's kind of allowed the flow. And the more and more you're immersed in the characters of the book, the more and more they're going to come out with lots of little quirks from your past, from
Mm-hmm.
yourself, from people and oh, I met that character once, oh, they'll be really good in the book, right? And
Oh,
it's not
definitely.
using names, it's just using the personas. And it can be extremely exciting. Yeah, but there is a certain amount of discipline you have too, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. And sometimes the muse is with you, and
Mm.
sometimes she's not. But I found even when the muse is not with me, she's taking a break somewhere. I will still type and I will acknowledge to myself, this is not great. But at least I'm getting ideas down on
Yeah.
paper that when the muse decides to show up with their cup of tea or say, okay, let's get going, I've already had the foundation. I
Yeah.
can build from that.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And the beauty of being able to do it on the computer is you can always go back, cut and paste, remove, and inject something else, right? So,
Oh, in all honesty, I don't know how people still do this, but I know people who do. And if
yes.
that was works for you, uh, I'm left-handed, and
Mhm.
so I've never had good handwriting, and I
No.
get writer's cramps
Yeah.
very easily. Um, and then when I was in college, and those blue book exams where
Mhm.
first of all, I would sit, there was never a left-handed desk. So I would sit next to an empty desk and write on that desk. My hand would be blue
Mm.
because it went over the ink. So
Mhm.
I guess for that reason, I just don't, unless I'm someplace and I don't have a computer, I will, write. But for the most part, the computer
Yeah.
and hit save often. I've made that mistake a long
Yes.
time ago.
Yes.
Hit save
Or
often.
have it that in the word that it does save as you go. You can
Yes,
set that up
yes,
as well, which is important. Yeah, I
yes.
have dyslexia, so my writing is a scroll, and
Uh,
then I will get things out of sorts, and it becomes frustrating. So this is what
mhm.
I like. I became more creative when I could get on the computer because I could see it and I could adjust it and I didn't feel frustrated that I've just written all of this and I can't make sense of it. So, you know, with the computer I could. So you have to know your forte. I know some people swear by the, you know, the pen and the paper. If that's your process, it's great, but there is no
Yeah,
one process that fits all. So
definitely.
sometimes I do a show every week myself just on me, Sarah's view of life. My perspectives is sometimes I'll do an audio first and then write the blog, or sometimes write the blog and then do the audio. And it really is press record and see what comes out, you know, because,
That's
you know, I,
fun.
you know, just, oh, I'm going to address that and let it come out, let it
Yeah.
be organic. And that's me, everything about it. And you've got to go. My brother's very disciplined. He's just releasing his new book. He will spend hours every day, you know, writing and build character building. He'll even go to places that he's going to set them up in. And he's, you know, very, very detailed author. But if it's not your style, it's not your style. And it, you know, it comes down to your result. And there's always plenty of people one can draw from in life,
Oh,
from one's
definitely.
own experiences, right?
Definitely. But, and I understand, you know, in my book, all the places I have actually been to,
Mm-hmm.
and I have actually revisited while writing
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to make sure I had it somewhat correct.
Yes.
Um, I didn't want, well, an example, I remember once with friends watching one of the Dirty Harry movies,
Mm-hmm.
speaking of Clint Eastwood. And there's that famous, is it Lombard Street, that famous street in San Francisco that's really steep.
I don't know. I've not been there, I'm
Okay,
afraid.
but anyway, there's a chase scene.
Mm.
And it's going down, and all of a sudden a car comes and crashes, and we all said the same thing. It's a one-way street. We all knew that in California. Now, somebody in Missouri
Right.
might not know that, but it bugged us. And I thought,
Yes.
I don't want somebody reading. I mean, it's fiction. We take liberties to begin with, but I don't want somebody to say that plant doesn't grow in California. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Because they
yeah.
get hung up on a detail and they lose track of the story.
And then it loses credibility.
Mhm.
It takes them out of it.
Yeah. If you're going to
Yeah.
use a fictional place all the way through, then that's totally different. But
Mm-hmm.
if you are going to, you know, hit on a place, just make sure that those facts do match. Because I used to do continuity in movies, and
Oh,
now when
wow.
I watch it, you know, I can say, the hairstyle is different. Or
Yes.
didn't wear that, the collar was up, now it's down. And I get caught on that now because I used to do that. And it's amazing how many times you will find that even in these big budget movies where you think
Yes.
there wouldn't be, but you know, it does happen. And it can throw us off. It can as the audience. So yeah, those small little details are setting the stage for your characters. And so you don't want people to go, but hang on, that stage
Yes.
is wrong. So yeah, very important. So you've got the bug now, and you're on
Oh,
the second
definitely.
book.
Definitely.
Is the second book another whodunit, or what's this
Oh,
book?
yes, yes. I think I will probably stay with the cozy mysteries. It's my favorite genre.
Yeah.
Um, and again, it's fun creating characters that aren't, spoiler alert, they're not in the police business,
Yes.
but they find themselves,
Yeah.
you know, in another murder situation.
Correct.
And darn if it's not up to them to get it solved.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's kind of, again, it's fun, the observation people make. Um, you know, there's a famous Dateline one where it was a neighbor who just something to do with bananas,
Hmm.
who kind of went, that person. I mean, she pretty much solved the murder
Right.
just because she paid attention to a casual conversation and then thought of other conversations and put 2 + 2 + 2
Mm.
equals 6. I love things like
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when is the next book coming out?
You know, my goal is the first draft has been written. The first draft, and I am what I consider myself a 3 draft person, even doing essays in college.
Mhm.
It's my first draft. I think I will go start, you know, next week going through the second draft, going start making changes. I already know some of the things I need to do. Then I'll probably follow my own advice, get it read, and then get their feedback. This one, unlike the first one, I do plan on visiting the ladies in Death by Chaos again, but that wasn't my intention. It was just going to be just one book. But this new one, the lead character is Bridget, and I plan on a series with her.
Right.
And she has some delightful friends that are based on people I know. They're based. I'm making changes. They're going to be exaggerated, so nobody gets upset. But and so yeah, definitely she's going to find herself in situations. I plan on having her as an event planner, which will put her in multiple situations where something can go wrong.
Right.
Yes.
Oh boy, can they?
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Because she's got to be where the murder happens, so,
Exactly.
or the death happens, or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you come back and share that book with us.
I would love to. Yeah.
I've been nagged at to write my book. It's not fiction, but it's like the time to do it.
Yes.
And you do have to carve out some time and just do it. Even if you as you said, just get that first draft down. Don't worry about how perfect it is or anything. Get the ideas down,
yes,
the characters down, and then you go back and refine it and adjust it and develop it more. But you just get it down, right? Don't leave it up in the head.
The first draft for me is the hardest. It definitely, each draft gets a little easier, especially if you have saved it on the computer.
Yes.
But no, it is. And
I would say actually add to that too, because it's important to you. Either back it up into the cloud or put it onto an external hard drive.
Yeah. Yes.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. It's hard to recreate from scratch. It's so frustrating.
Yes. It is, definitely. Yeah. So this is great. Well done, and congratulations on your first book.
You.
And set in the 70s, groovy time, far out, man.
Yes.
It was a great era. It really was. I'm glad to have been a part of it before the cell phones, before all of that. Even computers were just really beginning to find their foot. So we really got out and lived and participated in life. We made life what it was.
Oh, definitely.
And so a lot of fun. When you do look back at the 70s movies and you look at what they had to drive down the road to try and find a phone box.
Yes.
There was no computer to send an email. They had to send a letter, actually go into the police station and say something. So yeah, before technology came along, things were deduced in a totally different way, but that's what makes it more exciting.
I think so, definitely.
Thank you so much for sharing here today. How do people get hold of you, your site, and where do they buy the book?
Well, they can reach me. My email is Renaii West, RENAIIWEST if they have any questions or comments. I do have a website, RenaiiWest.com. And again, RENAIIWEST. I have a Facebook page and Renaii West author. That's all one, you know how Facebook is. Yep. That's all one big word. And on both my website and my Facebook page, I do have blogs. I do post ideas. I do post upcoming events and whatnot. I do post my past interviews. And then also my book I'm on Twitter, Renaii W, RENAIW. And then of course, you can buy my book on Amazon. Either look it up by Renaii West or Death by Chaos. And I'm happy that if I type in Death by Chaos, because you know how it is. I check every day.
Yeah, of course you have to.
I check every day just to make sure
it's your baby.
And it pops up, that I just, because Amazon has so many things. Sometimes it gets buried, but
Yes.
no, it still pops up. So
Right.
Death by Chaos. And it does, I'm going to plug it. It does look like this. And so, and I've been asked this. No, that's not me. But maybe I did like her because that's one thing when you do publish a book, you can get somebody to help write
Yes.
the create the cover, and maybe that's why I was drawn to her. But no, that's not me. Okay, and that's the sexy guy. Let's see, where is he? That shows up on the motorcycle.
Right. Brum,
Okay,
brum.
so
Something
yeah,
about
but
that
on
motorcycle.
on Amazon,
Right.
and you can buy both Kindle or soft cover.
Excellent. Well,
Yeah,
congratulations on your first novel. I look forward to having you back on the second one. It's wonderful to kind of take these characters and put them down on the page, and for someone to read it and just kind of be transformed into another place and leave food for thought. I always love the food for thought and the
yes.
conversation, which is really, really important. So thank you for coming and sharing with
Oh,
us here
and thank
today.
you, and I hope to be back. And
Definitely.
please keep me posted when you get your book done.
Yes.
You got to do it.
I
I'm going to
know, I
nag
know,
you.
I know. It's the just I do anything from 6 to 8 shows a week, so it's purely timing.
Yes, we
So
understand. Oh, but I can tell you've got some stories to tell.
I do, I do.
Oh,
It's like, where do I start? It's always running in my head, and,
yes,
and I know there'll be a time where it says, like the head says, it can't stay here anymore. It's got to go down. So,
yes.
and then it will come out. But yeah. So yes, it's there waiting.
Well, I can't wait. I can't wait.
So go out and get the book, folks. Death by Chaos, Renaii double I's West on Amazon. RenaeIWest.com, and check out what she's doing, and we'll have her back for the next book of intrigue and murder mystery. And there's so much in a good murder mystery and a good whodunit in the character building that really makes us stop and think about, I know somebody like that, or oh god, that's me, how did she know? So
Hmm.
please read, folks. It takes you to a different place altogether. So thanks very much, Renaii.
And thank you. It's nice meeting you.
Until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many, many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com, and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.